Hi, and welcome back to the Fortify Your Brain Summit. I'm Betsy Schroeder, your host, and today I have as my guest Mr. Rod Rawls. Rod is a severe traumatic brain injury survivor and a family caregiver. He shares his journey on www.mytbiblog.com in an effort to provide hope, encouragement, relevant information, and resources to those who have been impacted by brain injury. Welcome, Rod.
Thanks, Betsy. Certainly honored that you've invited me to be a part of your summit.
So happy to have you. So to start out with, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with traumatic brain injury?
My experience with brain injury has been 3 generations, and 2 of them traumatic, 1 acquired. But my first introduction was when my son returned from a war zone. An explosion from a bomb in the road had shattered his L2 lumbar and left him with a brain injury. And I was his caregiver for about 5 years. I learned a lot in that time about how much I didn't know. But I didn't really learn how much I didn't know until I got my own brain injury. Just over 4 years ago, I crashed on my motorcycle. And yes, I'm in a no helmet law state. And that particular night, I'd opted to leave my helmet at home, so my head impacted the asphalt when I fell. The people that found me first thought I was dead. Ambulance arrived and they detected faint signs of life, so they put me on life support. And on arriving at the hospital, I was diagnosed as being brain dead. Family was advised I was unlikely to survive, but they would keep me on life support for 24 to 48 hours before the hard decisions had to be made. So after that, I showed signs of brain activity and was upgraded to coma. So I finally woke up wondering why I was in the hospital. And then I started learning about my new situation. I had no memory of the crash, and I still don't. It's just not there. An estimated, it's a personal arbitrary number that I attach to it, but I would guess that 85% or more of my long-term memory is gone. My lifetime of memories, if I described it the best I can, it would be like a sparsely populated picture book with no captions. I have images that I can see, but I can't understand what they're about. I can't pull any context. I don't know what was being said. I just have these flashes. So when I found I could remember immediate family and loved ones, I remembered their identities. I knew who they were. I didn't have any history. I couldn't come up with things we'd done together. I couldn't identify much about that, just the fact of who they were. And the rest of the world, it was faces, not names. Friends, associates, acquaintances, coworkers. We're talking about people that I worked with for 15 years, and I didn't know their names anymore. I'd be walking along in the hallway, and one of them would come, and I would want to say their name, but I couldn't. And then sometimes as I passed them, I would be able to find their name, but a lot of times I just couldn't. And I learned ways around that. When you have a brain injury and you can't find those things, you find ways to talk that don't require you to dig those things out, and you hope that people don't notice.
Yeah.
So short-term working memory were fairly non-functional. I think one of my hardest things initially was that I now had a difficulty with reading. And to put that in context, I was always an avid reader all of my life. You could rarely find me without a book open and working. I had my own personal collection. I think I was up to about 400 books or more, and many of them read multiple times. But now I was at a point where even you read a paragraph and you don't know what you just read, and you have to go back and read it again. And sometimes I would have to read it multiple times. So that was a struggle for me. I actually found a really cool tool. I found Audible, which Audible is, of course, audiobooks. And I have several hundred books in my audio library now. I love being able to still enjoy books, but not having to undergo the stress of trying to read them. So I've learned to read functionally. I can read emails pretty well, and you know, I can sort out the crucial details when I'm working through user manuals and software guides and things like that. But I can't just sit down and read anymore. So another thing that hit me really hard was I lost my ability to play my guitar. I
Oh,
played guitar for, gosh, well, how old was I when I crashed? I'm 60 now, 55, from 17. Well, I'll let you do the math because I don't math
yeah.
very well, but it was a lot of years of playing guitar.
Mhm.
And that was lost to me. Um, Probably one of my biggest battles, brain fatigue, something I didn't even know existed. Brain fatigue was a consistent issue. I dealt with sleep problems. You know, I used to, before the wreck, I could sleep for 5 hours, and I was awesome. I'd jump up and make my day happen. But after the injury, I found that if I couldn't get, initially, I was at the 9 and 10 hour mark, and if I couldn't get 9 to 10 hours sleep, then I would be fairly dysfunctional the next day.
Mhm.
Um, if I got down in the 7 and 8 hours, I would be a struggle. If I got below 7 hours, I couldn't, I would just call into work sick. They understood, they worked with me real well, but sleep was a big problem for me after my injury. And, you know, I've written about a lot of this on my blog. There's so many things that happen to us: noise tolerance, general overstimulation. I found going to a restaurant with my girlfriend was no longer enjoyable. There was too much chaos, too much noise. And, you know, when you go into a room where there's like probably 6 or 7 conversations going on, and you cannot filter out the ones you're not involved in,
Yeah.
it it's too much. It becomes overwhelming, and I couldn't pick out what my girlfriend was saying to me or whoever I happened to be with. And so yeah, it was a real struggle for me. And I guess another big change would be my personality.
Oh.
My girlfriend Marcy often calls me Rod 2.0 now. So yeah, she says I'm much different than I used to be, and that's evidenced in the fact that, you know, a good time to me used to be jumping on a Harley and going for a ride and maybe hitting the bar and playing some pool and you know, coming home playing some video games. I can't play video games now, but I do garden. I have a wood shop that I work in. I have I paint. I even sew. So I've found different outlets for my creativity, and that's one of my methods of coping, I guess.
Wow. So what did doctors tell you initially? And then I'm guessing it wasn't such good news. It's like that you're going to be able to do all that you do now.
Yeah, I think that my doctors, where I struggled with this the biggest was, yeah, he sent me to a neurologist because I had numb areas in my leg. But he didn't address what I was expressing to him as my symptoms. And he expressed to me, now this was a young doctor.
Mhm.
Um, he did great things as far as in his area of expertise, but I think he was new to brain injury. His guidance to me was that we needed to wait for that magical 2 year mark, to let things heal as much as they could, and then we'd pursue other options. But it didn't work out for me, and I looked for other options.
Okay, so then from there, you started doing your own research. And where did you start, and what was kind of the mindset that got you like, okay, I have to figure this out, and then where do you start?
That mindset would be that I felt I wasn't getting what I needed from my medical support team.
Yeah.
Initially, he did offer a referral to cognitive therapy. And cognitive therapy was such an amazing experience because she gave me tools. She gave me strategies more than, she didn't fix anything for me. There was no way to fix things, but there were tools and strategies, and that was probably my primary takeaway in order to help me make the most of what was left to me.
Okay.
She did give me things to practice and things to, you know, work on, and crazy little memory cards and stuff like that to work with. But it made a difference, and it pointed out to me that perhaps my answers weren't all medical.
Mm.
and I wanted more options. And you know, I'm a bit of a Googler, so I started looking up, and I don't remember what my initial search was, but it was about brain fatigue. And I ran across an article on BBC on brain fatigue.
Mhm.
And it was amazing because it touched home in so many ways. And it had a link to synapse.org.au, which is an Australian brain injury support organization. And I went to that site, and there I read stories that I was sure had been written about me. They had guidance, resources, links, but mostly I think, when you find out you're not alone, it's huge.
Yes.
And so that was huge for me. And I found out that there were not only others like me, and it's not that I thought I was unique, but that there were actually a lot of others who had gone through what I'd gone through and were going through what I was going through, and that there were resources available to us. And that started my research train, and it's still going strong.
Mm. Excellent. So you've written a little bit about something called BDNF on your blog, and can you tell us like what that is and what you've discovered and how you're using that?
Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. BDNF it can best be described as one of the most powerful biological triggers for sharpening our minds. I actually discovered BDNF in a Stephen King novel called The Institute, and it was about kids with psychic abilities. And he had referred to something called BDNF. And as I said, I'm a Googler, so I wanted to know if it was a real thing. Well, I didn't find any evidence supporting the fact it could offer psychic powers, but I did learn that there were a lot of studies that had shown that BDNF can substantially improve both memory and cognitive functions, and this really triggered my research. It's active in areas of the brain linked to learning, memory, and higher thinking. Low BDNF levels are shown to result in poor memory, mild cognitive impairment as we age. And the most important thing I think that everybody should know about BDNF is that it's produced by our brains, in our brains. But there are ways that we can influence our brains to produce higher levels of it.
Okay, so how can we do that?
Well, let me just say, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how it helps the brain.
Yeah.
BDNF actually activates a series of genes that grow new brain cells and create new neural pathways, and it strengthens the neurons that are already there. Betsy, there's a popular belief that older folks like me don't create new brain cells, but new studies are showing that we generate just as many new brain cells as younger brains do if we have the right tools available. And BDNF is a primary tool for generation of new neurons and new pathways. It increases our plasticity. Brain plasticity means that when cells are damaged or heavily stressed, that it offers added protection, makes them stronger and more resilient. Increasing BDNF levels is shown to help keep you mentally alert, improve memory, make you less susceptible to depression. It helps you lose weight. I'm not sure I've seen a lot of that, but we'll see how it goes. Improve sleep, and I think one of the big things here for this particular venue is that it protects against oxidative stress and neurodegenerative diseases, which is one of the focal points of the summit, of course. And as you know, oxidative stress is an imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants in your body that results in cell or tissue damage. And the number of studies showing how BDNF reduces the impact of oxidative stress is growing every day. I actually did a search as I was prepping for this interview on NCBI, which is the National Center for Biological Information. And they have such a wealth of resources under their National Library of Medicine, National Institute of Health. So it's ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. And you can do searches for anything from BDNF to find out what it does, how it works, how you can increase it in your body, or anything else. There's so many studies about brain injury, about how, and what to do in order to heal the best we can from them. So the answer to your direct question, which was, what did I do to increase my BDNF levels? I'm going to have to qualify the answer. A self-study can never be unbiased.
Right.
I can't confirm beyond any doubt that my actual BDNF levels have increased because I've never had any testing done. It's me looking at me, and obviously we can't confirm that my results are completely unbiased. It's kind of a built-in bias when it's us looking at ourselves.
Yeah.
That said, after I've been doing this for 6 months now, of doing all the things that are shown to increase BDNF levels, dietary, life changes, everything. And the differences in how I am in the world compared to before from this new lifestyle are significantly different. So what I did, exercise is a key thing for increasing BDNF. I started a gym membership. I was going 3 times a week until all this COVID-19 showed up in our area. But my focus was primarily on aerobic exercise, which by itself, aerobic exercise has been shown, if we're doing it on a regular basis, there's some timings out there. I think it's 20 minutes, 3 times a week minimum, can increase your BDNF levels by 200 to 300%. So it's significant. Yeah. Sleep, deep sleep. I've embraced sleep hygiene. Of course, I had to find out about sleep hygiene the hard way once I discovered what I was dealing with after my injury. But I have a very dark room. I have light blocking curtains. And, all those power strips and electrical devices that have little LEDs on them, I actually use electrical tape to cover up all the LEDs so that it darkens my room and I have a dark environment. The only one I haven't taken to blocking yet is my fire alarm, because I kind of think that one's important to see. So,
yeah.
Yeah. But regular sleep cycles, I target to be in bed between 8 and 8:30 each night. I know that's not realistic for a lot of people because they have different schedules, you have family responsibilities and everything else, but a lot of those people are also getting up at 5 a.m. to go to work, and that needs to be a consideration. But sleep is huge in increasing your BDNF levels. I do also use a timed-release melatonin supplement, which helps me to sleep even better. Meditation is a big one. Yoga, meditation, Tai Chi are all definitely and proven to increase BDNF levels. I actually found a fairly major study that followed participants in a 3-month yoga and meditation retreat, which showed they had increased their plasma BDNF levels by 3-fold by the end of their retreat. I meditate an average of about an hour to 2 hours a day. I'm not sure if yoga is for me. I'm not young and flexible anymore. But Tai Chi actually has also been shown to increase BDNF levels significantly. And that's something I've been researching. I can't find anybody local here yet. I think I'm gonna have to drive over to the next big town to get into a Tai Chi class. But these are things that do make a huge difference. And a meditation retreat is one of those bucket list items I hope to mark off the list this year. So, mind-body health also impacts BDNF levels. And that's something I had to look up when I read about this. I'm like, well, what's mind-body health? So it refers to techniques for keeping a positive attitude and approach to life, because our brain reacts chemically to our thoughts, our feelings, and our expectations. If we're worried or stressed, our bodies release hormones to, the whole fight or flight syndrome. And these chemicals cause your heart rate to increase, your blood pressure to increase, it suppresses immune responses and other uses of energy that are considered non-essential when you're in a life-threatening situation. And you think about how, ironic that is, that It can be simply that somebody said something we didn't really enjoy, and yet we have that fight or flight syndrome because we're feeling stress, and it actually reduces our immune responses. So when we relax and bring our thoughts into the present moment, our bodies respond appropriately and diverts energy towards the rebuilding and repairing of our systems, which is one of those things that meditation helps to deliver, as being in the present moment. Diet and supplements, well, I love food, so these were easy to do. Fish oil, curcumin, and cocoa, in addition to all of the other wonderful benefits they offer, can increase BDNF. I include a turmeric and fish oil supplement daily, and I actually found a brilliant way to introduce cocoa into my diet, which is I have an espresso machine at home, so I like to start my mornings with espresso. Well, I've found that I can use some raw fermented cacao powder in my morning mocha. And it's healthy, no sugar, tastes nice and chocolatey, and actually helps to increase my BDNF. So polyphenols, these are from your coffee, green tea, dark chocolate, blueberries, colorful vegetables, right? All delicious stuff.
Yeah.
So these are all excellent polyphenol sources. And of course, coffee, chocolate, and blueberries would probably be the top of my list. But
me too.
coffee fruit extract.
Yeah.
Coffee fruit is the red fruit that surrounds a coffee bean, is especially potent. And 100 milligrams of coffee fruit extract in a study that I read raised BDNF levels by about 140%. So this is huge. I've added a supplement that I take daily that has coffee fruit extract in it. Additionally, I'm a pretty natural guy. I like to find the natural approaches. So supplements are great, but where I can find it naturally is better to me. It just makes me feel better. So I actually brew at least 1 cup of coffee fruit tea each day. I found you can buy coffee fruit, and yeah, they already took those magic little coffee beans out of it, but they dry the fruit, and you can buy the bags of it, and now you just put it into your brewer with some I use stevia leaf, and it's very, very tasty. Some people might prefer a spoonful of honey, but either way, it's great, and it increases our BDNF levels. So there's a lot of extracts out there. And they all tout their many benefits. I've been working with a supplement that incorporates the coffee fruit extract with a number of other supplements, your basic nootropic supplement, and yeah, I'm seeing changes that we'll talk about. I do want to throw this disclaimer in here because I've thrown out a lot of things, exercise, diet change, supplements. You always need to discuss any new exercise regimens, dietary changes, or dietary supplements with a trusted medical professional. So,
right.
As we talk about how to increase BDNF levels, let's also touch on what decreases BDNF levels.
Yes.
Stress is huge. So stress management is a key preventative maintenance requirement. And here's one that will, never goes over good, but sugar. And most notably fructose, such as in the high fructose corn syrup variety that's used to sweeten so many of the products we consume these days. Fructose directly curbs BDNF production levels and actually leads to cognitive decline.
Oh.
So yeah, if you read your labels, if you see high fructose corn syrup, just realize that every time you consume it, you are curbing your BDNF production levels and leading to cognitive decline. Social isolation is another problem area because lack of meaningful mental stimulation can lower BDNF levels. So make sure you have a good social circle and reach out to your friends and reach out to your family on a regular basis. This actually helps to make our BDNF levels stay where they should be instead of decreasing them. So stress, sugar, social isolation are the things to avoid.
All right. So what have you noticed then, with improvement after incorporating some of these things?
So, And, you know, I kind of led to this, oh, I lose words sometimes still, but I kind of implied this earlier, is that an important point here is that there's no before and after double-blind testing methods.
Yeah.
So my results are observational and
Mhm.
based on, I guess, what we call anecdotal evidence.
Right.
That said, I have most definitely noticed differences. I now am seeing the ability for me to go from one high-level demanding meeting to the next without a break and functioning at a much higher level. My short-term and working memory have improved noticeably. As an example, you know, I'm now able to actually remember a large percentage of my many passwords without having to refer to my password keeper vault, which, you know, even last year I couldn't do that. I would remember my key things that I used each and every day, but if I went a few days without using it, then I would lose it. So I remember those. And something that really touched my heart here over the last couple of months is now when I pick up my guitar, I've been starting to remember some of the songs that I used to play. And not all at once and not perfectly, but they're coming back. So, you know, is this because of BDNF? And I don't know, is it because of my lifestyle and all of the things that I'm doing to increase BDNF and my nutrition that is all targeted to assist in healing the brain? Yeah, I believe so. Better quality sleep is something I've seen. I awake feeling more refreshed and ready for the day. And, you know, it's even more importantly, I guess, on this note, is that I see considerably less impact from poor sleep on my ability to function throughout a day. This is a huge thing for people who have survived a brain injury, is that when you get poor sleep, the next day can be a struggle. And you get poor sleep 2 or 3 days in a row, you can become dysfunctional because it's it's hard to control emotions. It's hard to keep track of things. It's hard to process. And over the last few months, my mother's dementia progression introduced me to sundowning. And this is where a dementia patient will sleep pretty much all day and be awake through most of the night.
Oh no.
So yeah, I would be awoken so many times throughout the night for so many purposes, but I've been able to maintain high performance levels at work and even maintain solid emotional stability, even when I'm only getting 4 to 6 hours sleep a night. And this is something that even last year I'd have never dreamed possible based on my experience.
Wow. 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 So, what is life like for you right now? I know you work in a high, very demanding job.
Life is good. It presents new challenges and it makes me dig deep some days, but my
Yeah.
focus is always on the happiness and
Yeah.
peace I can find in each moment. Of all that I do, I think that my key focus points are good sleep, good nutrition, and mind-body health.
Mhm.
Meditation is a foundational aspect of my life, and it makes an amazing difference. I do have coping mechanisms as well for, you know, when things are a struggle. For example, on my keychain, I have earplugs so that when I do go to a restaurant or any place that has excess noise or just chaos that is difficult for me, I pop my earplugs in, and they're actually a filter. They're not just a plain plug, and so they allow more of the speech frequencies through. So that, for example, when I go to lunch with my girlfriend, we can sit at a table and I can hear her perfectly, but it drowns out all of the background noise and all of the other people that are talking. I do try to ensure that I have breaks between high demand events. And not all of that's at work. Sometimes it's family related and the family's in a room and everybody's talking. And I just say, hey, I'll be right back. And I go outside and I just go sit under a tree or something like that for a few minutes and let my mind settle in. You know, those impromptu meditations can always help. But life has really changed for me, and I do blame, or what I say, credit a lot of that to BDNF.
Wow. Just out of curiosity, what are those earplugs called?
Okay, that's funny because they're eargasm, which I thought was a very funny name. I love these things. I've tried multiple different types of earplugs, and I've tried the concert earplugs, the musician earplugs. These eargasm earplugs have made all of the difference for me, and they're actually, I have a link to them on one of my blog posts. I don't remember which one, but I hope on my blog to very soon develop a single page of resources and
Yeah,
include things like this so that people can find these tools.
excellent. Wow. So are there specific things that you do like at work to maintain your job as a business analyst? I know that can be a high stress type position.
It's very demanding. And I will say that my experience at work now is so very different than my experience at work 6 months ago or a year ago. And it's because of the changes that I've made and the benefits that I've received, I believe that. It, now I'm actually able to continue to function highly. Now, we have to put that in the context of I work from home. So because of that, I can take, oh, gee, that meeting ended 10 minutes early. I can just go out and walk outside, pour myself a cup of coffee, just go relax for a few minutes, and then come back and dig into things in between meetings. So breaks throughout the day are so important if you can find them. When I'm having a particularly demanding day, I will meditate. At least, now I normally meditate morning and evening, but sometimes I will set aside a 10 or 15-minute meditation for midday, which just helps me keep my head in the game a little bit better. And it's also important, I think, that if we dig back a little farther here on the whole brain injury timeline, it's so important that people understand what's going on with you.
Mhm.
My own coworkers were so understanding. And especially when I was open with them and explained to them that, you have to understand, I know you so well, but as I was walking up here, I could not remember your name. And they will tell me they would tell me their name. So, oh, what's that word? I can't find that word, but in any event, they would be very understanding of my situation. And so being open and honest with everyone, your family, your friends, your coworkers, let them know what you're going through because they can help.
Yeah.
It can make things so much easier for you if they understand. And, my family gets it now. They didn't at first, but now when I just say, hey, I'll be right back, they know I'm going to take a break. Sometimes I go sit in a dark room where it's quiet across the house. Sometimes I go out and walk under the trees or whatever it might happen to be.
Mhm.
But making sure that everybody understands what you're going through can help them support you so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned your blog. Can you mention that again and where people can find you online if you're out there on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that?
Well, I don't do Facebook yet. Everybody keeps telling me, Rod, you need to get a Facebook presence. I am, mytbiblog.com. I am active on Twitter, very active in the brain injury and caregiver communities. And plus, I do follow a few of my favorite authors, all science fiction, by the way. And my Twitter is at mytbiblog. So, if you are active on Twitter and you want one more resource for brain injury resources, follow me and I will certainly do all I can to share all that I learn.
Wow, great. Thank you so much for sharing your story and all of your great resources. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Betsy. I'm, again, very honored to be a part of this, and I applaud you for making these kind of resources available. I'm going to just reach back because when I first started this journey, I didn't know there were resources available. I didn't know there was a Twitter community. I didn't around brain injury. I didn't know there were Facebook communities surrounding brain injury. I didn't know there were websites that guided us. I didn't know about NCBI. I didn't know about all of this. And what you're doing here is just a remarkable tool for those who are just entering or are well into their brain injury journey. Whether you're a caregiver or somebody who has actually had a brain injury, or somebody who knows someone with a brain injury, these kind of resources are so important. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, take care.